So you've just started your practice and you're wondering how to go about finding clients. You want the clients so bad and you really want to fill up your schedule as quickly as you can. And you may have seen things online like with paid advertising with social media or on Google, and you're wondering if it's worth it and if that is the right thing that you should be doing in order to fill your schedule with paying clients. The good news is that when you're first getting started, you don't need a big ads budget in order to find your clients, and you don't need anything super fancy. And in this video, I am here to share with you today a bunch of different ideas, at least a dozen different ways that you can go about finding clients when you're first getting started without the use of paid ads. If you're new here, my name is Morgan. I am a physical therapist and a business coach for healthcare providers just like you who are wanting to start and grow your own solo cash-based practice and find the clinical time and financial freedom that you've been looking for. So if that is you, you are in the right place. I started my own practice back in 2019. I primarily work with CrossFit athletes, but I've also done some pelvic health and nutrition coaching as well. And since 2020, I have been working with other healthcare providers, other clinicians who are wanting to grow their own practices. And now we have a program called DPT to CEO, which is meant to help you go from where you are right now, where you feel like you're kind of scrambling to find clients, not really sure if things on the back end are correct. You're not sure if you're doing things right. Everything feels chaotic and overwhelming, to having a very clear plan and a roadmap to move forward, to go from this kind of chaos place to generating consistent monthly revenue with a consistent client caseload. So if that's something that you would like and you would like help with putting together for yourself, we would love to help you. We'd love to talk to you. You can book a free practice consultation with myself or one of the other coaches on the team at the link down below. And you can also find more information on the DPT to CEO program in the description as well. So let's get into today's video and talk about where the heck do you find clients? I know I hear this all the time where new practice owners will say, I just need X, Y, and Z, and then I'll be ready to find clients. And then magically patients are going to come falling out of the sky. So like once I have a rented space, once I have a perfect clinic, once I have a website, once I have my social media set up, once I have a table or whatever, then I will finally be ready and the clients will just come walking through the door. If that's you, let me know in the comments. Or I also hear things like, I'm really worried about my budget. I don't know what I can afford. I don't know if I should be investing in the business. I don't know if I should be paying for advertising. Or my favorite, because it is one of the things that will really light me up, what really flips my pancakes is when I hear clinicians also say when they just start their practice, all I need is one really good referral source and then I'll have plenty of clients. I just need referrals and then I'll have clients. And if you want to see me shoot through the roof, say that to me, because those things they're not true. So like if any of those are you in this video, I really want to talk about like all three pieces of those and why we can just bust through all of those barriers together, because there's so much that you can do and so much that you have control of in order to grow your practice. So if any of that is you, you're in the right place. Let's get started with using online outreach. I think that's something else that's sort of like a misconception, is if you have an in-person practice, you might be thinking like, I need to find a referral source. I have to go talk to doctors. I'm only going to get clients in person, but you very much can find clients online. It's something that I've done, that a lot of our students in our program have done. I firmly believe that the best marketing strategy for a practice is a mix of both in-person and online marketing tactics, and we can always get into that in another video. And I'm sure I actually have another video on the difference between in-person and online marketing, but you can do a lot like straight from your phone. Two really big platforms right now now, at least at the time of this recording, are Instagram and Facebook for practices. We have seen sort of a rise in TikTok as well. It's not something that we are super familiar with, but I know a lot of practices out there are using it because the organic reach is great. But we use Instagram a ton, and Instagram is becoming a little bit more of a search engine as well. And so I think it's really important to have a profile for your practice because people are going onto Instagram and searching for physical therapy near me, occupational therapy near me, pediatric physical therapy, pelvic health, occupational therapy. So people are using Instagram as a search engine. And so you need to be on Instagram. And I feel like the same it's fair to say about Facebook, but there are definitely kind of like subgroups and populations that are more online on Facebook than others. And so it comes down to really knowing like your audience and your ideal client population. But we need to use whatever social media platform it is, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc. Think about it as a networking platform rather than just a posting tool. So social media is meant to be interactive. It's meant to have engagement on it. And if you are just posting and ghosting, you're not going to get much from it. You have to stay and play. Like you have to engage with followers. You have to engage with other users. You have to respond to messages in order for your profile to pick up traction over time and for more people to find you. So that includes starting conversations through direct messages. And there's a way to do this that makes it like not super icky. You don't have to be weird and do all of the like, hey girl messages. You don't have to go out and message people that you haven't talked to in a billion years and try to sell them something instantly. But just having like genuine starts to conversations where maybe you respond to people's stories to start a conversation with people who fit like your ideal clients or are part of your friends, family, like community network already. You can start conversations and keep them going through DMs, again, straight from your phone without even having to go anywhere. And there's a lot that you can do with that. Like you can just build connections, nurture relationships. And when the time is right, if something comes up, you can always offer your help. But you need to be specific though with what you're doing on a regular basis. So we're talking about on a daily basis, messaging a certain number of people or starting like a certain number of conversations, commenting and engaging with a certain number of users, and making sure that you're nurturing those relationships before you pitch anything. So the worst is going to be to message somebody and say, book an evaluation with me today. They will not respond. You need to develop that relationship a little bit more and see if they actually have a problem that you can help with before you make an offer. And this is how you can turn social media into a whole pool of warm leads rather than just like a bunch of strangers online, who follow your content but don't really engage with it. So with online outreach, think about using social media as a networking tool and make a goal for yourself to have a certain number of conversations each day. And that's a great way to fill your pipeline and just to start making connections with people. Even if those people don't need help, they will now be aware of you and know what it is that you do, and they can always tell their connections too. So online stuff, networking galore, conversations every day, and then in-person stuff. And I think the same goes for in-person marketing. Just because you have like an online business, whether it is some kind of in-person online hybrid or you are doing straight telehealth, you can still do a lot of marketing in person. You don't have to only stay online. If that's your preference, that's fine, but you can do a lot of in-person stuff. And from what I have seen over the past, 6 years now, you are going to get a lot more traction faster if you incorporate in-person stuff when you're first getting started, because there's a lot of people that you already know and they already know you, like you, and trust you in person. And you can use that to gain momentum and really catapult yourself into the online space and keep growing from there. So if you have the opportunity to do in-person stuff when you're first getting started, I would recommend it. And then you can always continue it. Or, if it's not really your vibe, you can discontinue it later on. But it's definitely worth trying. So even if you're a totally online practice, you can still do in-person marketing, and then when somebody asks to work with you, you don't have to panic and be like, I don't see anybody online. You just have to very confidently say like, oh yeah, like I work with people just like you. I have a solution for the problem that you have. I'd love to help you out. If it's cool with you, why don't we set up a time to have a longer conversation and see what's going on? And if it feels good, I can talk to you a little bit more about the way that I work with people. And that's all that it has to be. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. So in-person opportunities, let's talk about these. Because if this is something that you do like, and you feel like you just enjoy it and you enjoy connecting with people in person, I would really recommend making this part of like at minimum, like your quarterly routine, but like best is probably at least monthly doing something in person. We even talk about in our program too with some of my students, like a lower intensity versus a higher intensity in-person activity. And an example of that could be if you set up a vendor, like you just kind of post up to table at an event, like a marathon or something, and you're there, you have your signs up, you have different stuff on your table. Maybe you're doing some kind of a screen or something, but it's very like low key. And for some people, that's a really good way to get into doing in-person events because you set your expectations as like, this is a really low intensity activity, knowing that you're probably not going to walk away with immediate evaluations that day, but you could get a lot of contact information and follow up with everybody on that contact list, and so some people might argue with that and say, well, you shouldn't be doing an event without the intention of like trying to set up an eval. But my argument against that is if like the thing that is preventing you from doing any events is just being like scared out of your mind because you're putting so much pressure on yourself to try to sell things at this event, just like take your foot off the gas and just set the expectations so low where, like the only thing that you need to do is show up, talk to people, collect contact information. And if that is success for that event, great. And you'll get more comfortable with it to where we can start to implement the more like high intensity activities, like hosting seminars and workshops where like the goal at the end of those events, right, is a call to action to book an appointment today. It ends up being like a long sales event and there is more pressure with that, I would say, and you'll feel less pressure as you get like more comfortable with doing them, but it's a lot more like urgent. So low intensity versus high intensity activities. But, you could do the workshops, the seminar stuff, and try to schedule those maybe like once a month. And then maybe once a month or every other month, you are going and tabling somewhere and doing something a little bit more low intensity. So then that way, like you're getting out into the community and talking to people, showing your face, but it becomes routine. Like that's what is really important with this stuff is you have to do it on a very consistent basis and have a consistent process to get the most out of it. And so like if that's something that kind of like freaks you out and you're like not really sure how to go about that, that's why business coaching could be a really good option for you. That's really what we specialize in, is taking a lot of like the chaos and overwhelm out of things because we have a specific process for every single piece of starting and growing your own practice. And so if you like that kind of direction, you thrive on that kind of direction and instruction, please apply to DPT to CEO. We would love to help you. All of us are also very like checklisty and appreciate exact instruction. So like just some more ideas, right? Is like it's tabling at different like athletic events, different like kids events in the area if you're in pediatrics. You could also like host workshops and seminars, of course, at like different gyms or different like exercise facilities, but also at your like local community center or recreation center. You might even be able to contact your city hall and see where could be like a good opportunity for you to host an event and like how to go about doing that. And you could offer something that's educational, or you might even be able to do something like a little bit simpler potentially and do like free screenings for things. So this year, I started using some valve testing equipment, which we have a video on if you're interested, including like force plates and a dynamometer. That would be like a great event if I wanted to try to drum up some business for my PT practice, to do screenings with the dynamometer and the force plates to help like evaluate athletes and like see what their strength, their range of motion, like their balance side to side is looking like and everything. That would be like kind of a low key event, sort of like a little bit less intense, but also maybe even like easier to promote evaluations because you could literally mini screen somebody right there and be like, in order to do your sport, these numbers should look like this. You're not there. I think we should set up a time to talk to make a plan to get you there. Would you like to do that? That's how I would go about selling evals if I'm doing a screening. So just some ideas. But then something else that I love to talk about is I call it Gymshark Week. And this is going to be like super efficient way to get yourself out into the community. And I say gym because that's primarily like where my ideal clients are, but there are lots of different places that you could find your ideal clients. So if I'm looking for like gym goers and everyday athletes, right? What I would do is set aside like a week or two where I'm going to prioritize going to as many different like fitness classes as possible. So whether it's like CrossFit or bar or Pilates or yoga or spin classes or like going to a running club or things like that, I'm going to fill up my schedule with as many things as is safe and like works. And then make it a point at each of those events to introduce myself to at least two people and try to exchange Instagrams with those two people because we're using Instagram to promote our business. And if there's like an instructor or the business itself has an Instagram, we're going to exchange those Instagrams too so that you can tag them and, you guys can cross post and cross share things together. And that's how you start to like grow your network, both in person and online. But you give yourself like the week or two, and then once it's over, and you can do it again next quarter. But I think that's like so fun, especially if you go into it with the expectation and like setting the success standard of I just have to show up at these classes, introduce myself, exchange Instagrams, success. Like that's it. Instead of trying to like put pressure to like sell something, it's going to be a lot more fun and you're going to make a bunch more friends, which that's always great. It's always good in any situation, I think, like when you're growing, you're trying to find new clients to really like invest first, be the first person to invest in the thing that you want to see grow. Like if you go into relationships only asking for things for yourself first, you're much less likely, I think, to get what you want versus like if you go into building relationships with like people in your community and with gyms, with other businesses in the area, other providers, potential referral sources, right? Offering value first and saying, like, hey, I love what you do. How can I help out? How can I support you? Like, this is what my business does. I'd love to support you however I can. Or like, here's a bunch of free resources that I have. You're going to get a lot further faster. People are going to trust you. They'll like you because you are offering value first. And speaking of offers though, we want to lead with value, right? We want to lead with good intention and goodwill and show that you're willing to invest. But don't forget to make an offer on the other side. So after you've been talking to people and after you've been making consistent like contributions to these relationships, if the people that you're speaking with have a problem that you can help with, you need to make an offer to help them. So, say like you've been talking to somebody at the gym and they've been telling you about like their shoulder pain that they have. And, you might have sent them like your free shoulder pain guide or sent them your Instagram and said like, hey, check out these videos that I have here. But they're still dealing with this issue. That's when you have to step in and be a leader and make an offer and say like, hey, you've been dealing with this issue for, 2-3 weeks now. It hasn't gotten any better. I've been thinking about you a lot. I'd love to help you out. How would you feel about setting up a time for free screening, free consultation, free discovery call, whatever, tomorrow or the next day? We can kind of talk through things a little bit more and see what you're dealing with and see if I can help. That's how you make an offer. And that's like one of the biggest things that is missing with a lot of the marketing that PTs, OTs, other healthcare providers do is we only offer the value and we don't make offers. And that's why clients are not booking. You have to put it out there and present the opportunity. So we've talked through a bunch of different ideas, right, on how to find clients without using paid advertising. You can use social media to network. You can do a ton of networking and outreach in your community, just talking to the people that you already know and leveraging that network. And we also talked through at the beginning too, like it really doesn't matter the format of your practice, like the way that you deliver your services. If you can help somebody, you can facilitate a transformation, you can get people out of pain. It doesn't matter if you're in a clinic, mobile, telehealth, cross gym, like telepath, like it doesn't matter. So, if you feel like you are just waiting to actually like have a clinic before you're able to help someone, you don't need it. There are lots of different ways that you can get started now. And like we talked through all of these ideas to start marketing yourself, you can do that now. If you're worried about marketing yourself because you like aren't ready to take on clients just yet, just start a wait list. That's also one of my favorite little tools. If you're not ready for something yet, but you need to start getting it out there because otherwise you won't buckle down and actually get ready to do the thing, just start a wait list. And so if you're waiting on like a clinic space and you're looking at things and you maybe you have a coach telling you need to start marketing yourself. When you put yourself out there, you talk to people, you advertise your services, and they're like, yeah, great. Like, I'd love to work with you. We say, okay, cool. Let's go ahead and put you name, phone number, email on our wait list. And then we're planning to start taking appointments the beginning of October. Let's tentatively schedule you for like Tuesday at 3 p.m. Would that work? There you go. Like give yourself a runway time-wise so that you can sort of like sort out the schedule and everything. But you can just put people in a wait list and figure it out as you go. That's what I would do anyway, instead of letting other things stop me. And then the last thing that I wanted to address is that you just need referrals in order to start filling your caseload with clients. You don't. I think that is one of the weakest excuses in the book. You, as the business owner, are responsible for finding your own clients. You do not need to depend on somebody else to send you clients. And the way that you do that is through all of the actions that we've talked about so far in this video, by you putting yourself out there, you creating content, you attending different classes, you doing workshops, you talking to people and having conversations. We're not going to depend on referral sources. Referral sources are great. They're amazing, and they're like the easiest clients to bring onto caseload and to sell services to because they came from a trusted source to another trusted source. And that's awesome. But if that is the only thing that you are depending on, like your business is going to always feel chaotic and you're going to always feel like you're like grasping at straws to try to find clients, versus if you put these online and in-person strategies into place, you're going to have so much more control over getting the word out there and making people aware of your services. And don't forget, lastly, I think, don't forget to tell friends, family, coworkers, your neighbors. All of these people count. And I only bring that up because I've heard it so many times that, oh, I booked a client, but like it's my best friends and, that doesn't really count as a client. And I'm like, well, are they paying you? And then the practice owner says yes. And I say, well, the money is money. Like that is a real client. Just because somebody has like a relationship with you, they're in your circle, right? It doesn't make them any less of a real client. And I think it's also a dangerous path to walk if you look at those types of clients, the ones that you have a previous relationship with, and think that they're not real, because I think it also can lead to complacency in the way that you're treating them. So treat everybody like a real potential client, because they count. Even if they're within your small circle, they are still a real client. And make sure you're tracking where all the clients come from. So every new person who comes onto your caseload, how did they find you? Why did they decide to work with you? Get that information so you can track what's working, what's not, and continue to make decisions from there. So if this was helpful, I'd love to have you stick around. You can hit the subscribe button and get notified of when we post new videos, which is usually every other week, to get more tips like this in order to start and grow your own cash-based solo practice and build your caseload. So to kind of sum everything up, because I know I'm kind of like ranting a little bit, you absolutely can find your own clients and fill your own caseload without using paid ads, without anything fancy, without a giant clinic space or anything else that you feel like you need to wait on to get to. You have the tools that you need right now in order to start putting yourself out there and having conversations with people that will lead to paying clients. If you need help with this and you just feel like it's, too overwhelming to try to do on my own, or I feel like I'm getting a lot of like conflicting information from the vast internet, we'd love to help you. If you're somebody who really likes having guidance and likes knowing exactly what to do week to week in order to grow the business, we are the right people to help you. And you can find more information about the way that we work with people through our DPT to CEO business coaching program down in the description below. And you can book a call with either myself or one of our other coaches to talk about it and see if it would be a good fit to help you out. But otherwise, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.